Welcome. You're watching Rugby with Rifle, a podcast about all things rugby and life, with your host, Denny Pabone and Rifle Scudder.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Rugby with Rifle, a podcast about all things rugby and life. As always, I'm joined here with my friend Rifle. How are you doing, sir?
Doing very well. Thank you, Danny. Had a good weekend. A couple of surprises in the rugby world, but it was all fun and games. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Watching some highlights of the Champions League, and that's we're gonna get a little bit into that because our topic for today in today's episode is going to be the United Rugby Championship, a topic that we had covered actually a little bit before, but we thought we would dive a little deeper into the different leagues that occur in the different countries because obviously when there's no international rugby going on, the players are playing at the club level. So we decided just to focus on a few of the different rugby leagues. And so we're going to dive a little deeper into the United Rugby Championship. So, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, learning more about this league and diving a little deeper. So, without further ado, let's just jump right into it, Rifle. And again, this is a league that we had covered before. And the league consists of 16 teams. And the breakdown of those is four from Ireland, four from Wales, four from South Africa, two from Scotland, and two from Italy. So that's the breakdown of the league. And as you can see here, these are all the different teams on the league. So there's a total of 16. And I know in previous episodes, Rifle, you had mentioned, I believe it was the Sharks. Is your local team or is it the Bulls? I keep forgetting.
I'm a bull.
Oh, okay, Bulls.
I did
Sorry.
all my schooling and high school. I finished where the Blue Bulls play. Yeah, so that was my team with the Blue Bulls.
Oh, okay. My apologies. It was the
No,
Bulls,
no,
not the
that's fine. I
Sharks.
like all the South African side. I don't have anything against any of them, but my local team where I grew up, finished school in any case, with the Bulls.
The Bulls. Okay, cool. Yeah, so these are the teams, and they're split into four pools of four teams. And so we have the Irish pool, we have obviously country, we have the Irish pool, we have the Wales pool, we have the South African pool, and then we have the Scottish and Italian pool. So that's how the league is split up to into into those four pools. So the format of the league, and this is anybody who's a sports fan, is going to be familiar with the way sports uh, are divided. Usually in American sports, rifle, we have conferences. Like in football, we have the American Football Conference, and then we have the National Football Conference. Same thing in basketball and stuff like that. But for rugby in this specific league, pools is synonymous with conferences. For us American fans, just in case you see the word pool, you're like, what in the world is pool? It's not. It's not. They don't go swimming. So just wanted to clarify that. So each team is up to 50 players. It is one of the rules for the league. So you could have, a team could have 45, a team could have 47. It can't be more than 50. And the way the season goes is each team plays one away game and one home game against the other three teams in their specific geographical pool. So, for all you math wizards out there, that's two games against the three other teams. That's six matches. Now, there's a total of 18 matches. So, the other 12 games, you play either one home or away match, and that's determined by the people who put the schedule together for the league, whether you play a home match or away match against the 12 other teams that's out of your geographical pool. So 12 plus 6, you get 18 matches. Now,
Sorry,
again,
Danny.
oh, no, no problem.
Yeah.
You got one of those sneezing fits.
Yeah, hope so.
So, and then, so now, again, for us American fans, you have the playoffs, you have the top 8 teams that score the most points. And for those of you who watched our Six Nations series, it's going to look very, very familiar. So the top teams who has the most points, not match points, but a point system that's essentially, well, it is the same as the Six Nations.
Same as the Six Nations, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same exact. So if you follow the Six Nations and you saw an episode about the Six Nations point system, same exact point system. So the top 8 teams go into the playoffs. So the regular season is called the standing league table. So that's pretty much the regular season. And then they go into a quarterfinals, they go into a semifinals, and they go into the final match. So yeah, so again, somebody who's a fan, it's nothing surprising here. Um, the only difference is from, and again, something we've covered before, Rifle, is it's according to point system, not necessarily wins and losses.
Right.
So it's a whole different ball game that us American sports leagues are used to. So it's pretty interesting.
Very, very different than normal. I mean, there are pros and cons to anything in life, and so this is the same, So you check a team playing away one day and they're playing in the rain and the wind's blowing and they don't do well, and then you got to play everyone twice, so that makes up for it. But the weather on the day, if you have a really, really bad day, some teams come from more wet weather conditions, so they're used to playing in the rain, where other teams are absolutely, warm and dry. And when they get into the wet and nasty weather, they normally don't do well. So, on the day, anyone who comes from the wet weather and they play someone who's not used to that, it's easy for them to win, but then they can make up with another game with the point system. So even if you've lost one game, you still got the rest of the competition to make up, where it could be very unfair if you just play a team that are used to playing in wet conditions and you lose that game, and then you're out because you lost one game. So, but as I say, it's like everything, there's good and bad, pros and cons in it all, but that's how this works.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting now that you touched upon that, is just looking at the different stats between the teams. And one thing I noticed is if you look at the different stats, you have attack, which is the offense pretty much. again, bringing back to American football and American sports, you have what you call the attack in rugby, which is the offense. Then you have the defense. Then you have the scrum. They score the scrum and different aspects of the game. And looking at those different statistics, Leinster, who is currently after week 14, the league is in the about to play the 15th game in a couple of weeks here. Leinster is in the middle of the pack in all those statistics. So if you were to look at an American football team, they were the middle of the pack towards the end in some statistics. You'll be like, oh, that team is not doing good. And chances are 99% of the time, that team won't be good. So it's very interesting that just looking at that, Leinster is like middle of the pack in practically every uh, category that they're scored in, but yet they're currently number one in the league. So
Yeah.
it's pretty
So
interesting to see that.
where Leinster play, they in Ireland, so it's more of a wetter
Mm-hmm.
atmosphere where they play in. So, for example, 2 weeks ago they were touring in South Africa, and Leinster has a South African coach, Jock Nienaber, who coaches with Rassie, who won 2 Rugby World Cups. They went over to South Africa to play the Blue Bulls. And the Blue Bulls have a coach called Jake White, who also coached South Africa in 07, who won a Rugby World Cup.
Mm.
So there were 2 World Cup coaches against each other. But where the field is in Johannesburg and Pretoria, where I come from, because it's very, very dry, you
Mm.
can kick the ball much further. So if you go to, for example, where the Sharks play, it's literally on the coast. So it's very, very difficult to kick as far as you can in Johannesburg because of the humid and the wet air. So all of these things come into play. So like you said, Leinster, they in the middle, they number one, they far ahead of everyone else in the competition. Yet they went to the Blue Bulls house and they lost there, by 1 point.
Mm.
But it's difficult to go from where you are regular playing in softer, grass and all of that, and then you go to the Highveld in South Africa. They say, difficult to breathe. It's very high. It's elevated, so the kicks are further. So you'll see sometimes people kicking a penalty kick at Ellis Park in Johannesburg or Loftus Versfeld, which is in the Blue Bulls' home in Pretoria, and you can kick maybe 55, 60 meters. Where if you go to the Sharks or like that, you can't do it because it's much more humid and the air is more condensed. So all of these things come into play. How many home games you play, so if you play in Joburg or Northern Transvaal, where the Blue Bulls play, you can kick a little bit further, so that's an advantage. So yeah, Leinster, they as you say, in the middle of everything, but if we look at this past weekend, Leinster played against Harlequins, and Harlequins have got, they've got some of the stars in the English team, So you got guys playing for Quins that are going to be in the British and Irish Lions. You got Marcus Smith. They talk about him, such an amazing player. They got guys coming up, and with all that said, they go and they lose 62-0 to Leinster. Talk about a hiding. Goodness me, that was terrible. 62-0. So even if Leinster was, a couple of games before that, go to South Africa, they lose there to the Blue Bulls by 1 point. They won the next game against the Sharks. They come back and they play against England, against Harlequins, 62-0. So, that's where the point system is a good thing.
Yes, 62 actually. So I had mentioned to you that I was watching the highlights of that. At points, I was like, did the Harlequins send their U20 team? I don't know.
They couldn't have done worse, eh? Oh man.
Yeah, it was. Wow.
No, but Leinster is good.
Love.
Leinster, they've got, facetiously saying, they got three-quarters of the Irish team is Leinster. So
Mhm.
you got Josh van der Fleer, who's the flank for Ireland, and he was man of the match. He won man of the match again. So I mean, they're a really really good side, and I'm very biased because Jacques Nienaber is coaching them. So they've got a
Mhm.
good coach as well. So they're a difficult team to beat. That I can tell you.
Yeah. Yes. And in this instance, again, uh, numbers could be deceiving when
Yeah,
it comes to Leinster statistics with everything I had just mentioned a few minutes ago. Yeah. So yeah, and they have what eight currently 8 point in the point system. So they currently have an 8 point lead on the second, the Warriors, which the Warriors are the defending champions. They won the championship last year. So yeah, and with four more games to go, it's still a tight
still
race.
up in the air. Yeah, it is.
Yes. Well, at least for who's gonna be in the number one position
Yeah,
come playoff time. Still a tight race. So yeah, so there you go. These are the top 8 teams currently. So if the season were to finish, if the season were done week 14, these would be the 8 teams that will be going to the playoffs. But there's four more games, so you know, I would say maybe point wise, maybe the top three are pretty much, or top four are pretty much in. The
yeah.
five to
If
eight,
nothing strange happens and there's not another 62-0 beatdown,
yes. Well, okay, yes. Let me not say anything.
top four teams, yeah, probably they pretty much at the end of the season, and if they don't mess things up too badly, they'll probably go through to the knockout rounds.
Yep. And then the next four, let's see, 39, 37, 30. So the next four are still fighting with probably with the other teams
Yeah,
for a playoff position. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Pretty interesting next four games and see who
yeah,
makes it.
gonna be good.
So yeah, so just wanted quickly to run through the 16 teams and just some uh, just some information on the different teams. So we have here the year founded, and these some of these teams go back to the 1800s, which is crazy. It's a long time. Well, for us humans, it's a long time. For history, it's not. But yes, 1800s, and like every other sports league in the world, you have the league. Every league has their algorithm in which they, rate the players of the league, and usually you have the top 100 teams. Usually, or no, I'm sorry, the top 100 players in the league is a very typical thing that you see in every league. Doesn't matter which is baseball, soccer, football, basketball. You always have that list of top whatever players during that year. So I decided just to do the top 20 instead of doing all 100. Just do the top 20. So we have you know we have Benetton, we have and please correct me if I'm pronouncing these wrong. Rifle Kanak Kanak
Connect, yeah.
Kanak. We have Cardiff. We have the Stormers from South Africa. These are the I love just looking at stadiums and going to stadiums and just um, especially here in the United States, the multi-billion-dollar stadiums that are built nowadays. It just amazes me the technology and and the manpower it takes to build these stadiums, it's just crazy. Um, and that is something that I saw in South Africa. South Africa has a lot of beautiful stadiums. So
We do.
yeah, it
We've
was
got
amazing.
older stadiums, and then I don't know if you know this, but in 2010, South Africa hosted the Soccer World Cup.
Yes.
So they built a couple of stadiums for that as well. So in 1995, that was the first year that we could play in the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah.
The previous two times we were not allowed because of sanctions against us because of apartheid. So we weren't allowed to play. But then in 95, we actually had the finals at Ellis Park. So, you've got to have nice stadiums for that, which we did because rugby, cricket, our sport, that's what we live for in South Africa. So we had good stadiums. But then in 2010, when we had the football soccer World Cup, they built new stadiums as well. So we do have very nice stadiums in South Africa, I have to say.
Yes, 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 you do. And um, I would say, you know, stadiums in South Africa, the rugby, and then, uh, like you said, there was the soccer World Cup in 2010. It was you mentioned 20.
2010, yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, the stadiums are on par with the English stadiums, as I would say.
Yeah,
Um,
the thing is, I would even say our stadiums are better
mhm.
because we have more brilliant and big stadiums. Where England, if you go to Twickenham, the home of rugby, everyone talks about that. That's just, if you want to play at Twickenham or you want to play at Eden Park in New Zealand. So they have maybe one where the home team plays all their games. That's England's ground. It's Twickenham,
Mhm.
which is now the Alliance Stadium. I believe they've changed it. But in any case, so you got Twickenham, where in South Africa, where the Blue Bulls play, you got Loftus Versfeld. Where the Lions play, you got Ellis Park. Where the Stormers play, you've got your DHL Stadium there in the Cape. So, I mean, there are amazing stadiums, not just one, where other countries have a lot. And even if we look at the stadiums here that you've, taken the pictures for us, if you compare the size of like Cardiff, which is a great stadium, Cardiff Arms, but if you look at the size, just compared to the Stormers to the right of that,
Yeah.
or the South African stadiums are, because we do rugby, soccer, we do cricket, so we invest a lot into our sport. That's one thing we do is the stadiums are very well built.
Yes, yes, they are, and they're beautiful. Maybe one day, uh,
There you got Cape Town in the
take a trip.
background. See there in the DHL Stadium. I mean, how you
Yeah.
sit there and watch rugby with Table Mountain in the back. You don't get better than that.
Yes, that's definitely a bucket list. Taking a trip to South Africa
That'd be
and
wonderful.
watching a few rugby games. That would be great. One day. One day.
You'll have
Uh,
to start practicing your brandy and coke though if you go and watch rugby in South Africa. That's all I can tell you, my friend. You're
yeah.
gonna get hit hard.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably be one of those people that make pretend I'm drinking and just spill a little bit, drink a little bit more, spill a little bit more, and then raise it when it's empty. Yeah, cool. So the two players that we have in the top 20 are 13. Obviously, the number in the team 13th ranked currently in the league is Simon Ferrari. I wonder if it's any relation to Ferrari, the family, obviously the cars. Don't know, maybe, or it's just a typical Italian name. And then for the Stormers, we have currently the 16th ranked player in the league, Ruben.
Ruben van Heerden.
Okay, thank you. I was gonna pronounce that right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so 16th for the Stormers. Okay, so the next set of teams we have the Dragons, year founded 2003, which is fairly recent. uh, the Edinburgh, the Edinburgh Lions, and the Glasgow Warriors. Um, you had mentioned um, that, and we had spoken about this. South Africa's first World Cup was in 1995. Um,
Correct.
and if my memory serves me correct, wasn't that the year that rugby became formalized and professional? Am I mistaken in that thought? I thought I
I
had
don't
read,
think it was. I think it was shortly after that.
or shortly after that. Okay.
I might be wrong, but I remember because the guys were still working, they had jobs, and there were talks around that time to professionalize the game and to make it
Hmm.
like you have all your sports here in America. But I think it was shortly after that that the game became, because when Rassi and them were playing, it was a little bit after that. They started the so-called professional era when we went into the Super Rugby, which New Zealand and Australia still play today.
Hmm.
That's another league we're going to look at later. But I might be wrong here, but Danny, I think it was just after that, yes. But they were definitely talking about making the game professional at that time.
Which is very interesting to think that that's not that long. What, uh, less than 30 years? 30 years, give
Yeah,
or
less than
take?
30 years, definitely, yeah.
That the game of rugby was, uh, I mean, it was always formal in the sense that these are the rules that you play by, and then you had the rugby unions. But to the level of being, like you said, professional, where this is your career, and you're not a plumber or electrician or or a
Yeah,
teacher during the
teacher, yeah,
day. You're doing
yeah.
this full time, and you're making enough money to um, to support your family.
Yeah, when I was at
Uh,
high school, my history teacher he became a doctor in history. He played for the Springboks. He was a
wow.
fullback for the Springboks. So the people had that. They had jobs, like you say. So my own history teacher, who became the principal at my school, he played for the Springboks. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's just the way it was then. And you and I were talking just the other day about money because we were speaking. They were talking about out of all the coaches, England. I was talking about the money that England has for their rugby and what they can put into the rugby and the stadiums and so on in England. And their coach, the highest paid rugby coach of all the guys that get paid. And then you were just talking to me about the salaries that the football, American football coaches at universities
Yeah.
get paid here. And, I couldn't fathom the numbers that they get paid. If you think Rassi's won 2 World Cups, two in a row, he doesn't even get a fifth of what these guys make. It's just so, yeah, the game has been professional for less than 30 years.
Yeah. It is truly insane. Um, Insane the amount of money that coaches. I mean, just to put it into perspective, um, now in college, about 3 or 4 years ago, um, it's interesting that you brought this up. It's college players now at the top universities, and it doesn't matter whether it's football, basketball, baseball, all the top sports, American sports in this country. They they are able to get paid now. Before, previous to, I think it was this started in 2021, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So previous to 2021, if a college player uh, was paid by any company for endorsements, that player that would be illegal, and that player will probably lose their scholarship and be kicked off the team. Now we have players. For example, you have uh, uh, Deion Sanders. I don't know. I mean, you know who he is. Very few. Well, do you know who he is?
I do,
Rifle.
yes. No, I know,
Okay.
I know very well
I'm
who he is.
sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to assume, but
No, no, yes.
for those watching this episode, if you're a sports fan, you know who Deion Sanders is. His son, Shador Sanders, is, I believe I read, is getting $2.5 million in endorsements a year. This is a college kid, and that's probably what, 3 times the amount of money that the highest paid rugby coach gets. So just to put that in perspective, it's just insane. Now, I'm not saying that these colleges don't deserve it, because the universities make a ton of money off of these kids that play the sport, but it's just crazy the amount of money that's in the American sports. But
Yeah,
that's
it's
what it
huge.
is. It's neither bad or good. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, so as you can see here, the different players on the top 20. Edinburgh has 3. Paul Hill, um, again, Boy Venter, Boom
Venter,
Venter.
yeah.
Okay,
Venter. Ron Venter.
okay. He, and again, I'm probably butchering these names. He won
Ewan Ashman.
Ashman. Then we have Quan Horn and Henko. So
Inkel
I'm guessing the
Venter.
brothers. The two
Same
Venters
as
are brothers?
Ruan Venter on the top and the bottom, both Venter, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take a stab at they're brothers.
I don't know. That I don't know.
Maybe wrong, but it must just maybe a coincidence. Okay, so yeah, so again, so you had mentioned this before, that uh, Leinster has a lot of Irish players that play for the Irish national team.
Yep.
And then you have, one of the players that, if everybody was watching Six Nations, that was very prominent for the Irish, was their scrum half, Jameson Gibson Park, who is currently ranked as the 10th. Then you have Jack Conan. And then you have the other player ranked 20. And then for the Sharks, my friend Ox, which was another player that I grew to love watching Chasing the Sun. So, and again, for those of you who haven't watched that series, you need to go watch that series. So he's currently ranked as the best player in the league this year currently. So that was very interesting.
It's a little bit late because people are talking about when they spoke about player of the year. And he didn't, he wasn't even in there, and people were saying it's almost never ever a prop that gets that position. And they're one of the hardest workers. I mean, they got to be
Yeah.
everywhere and do everything, So Ox, a lot of people were very unhappy that he wasn't there, not nominated. So maybe they're trying to do something about that here in the top 20. But yeah, Oxen chair number 1 there. So I'm very happy for him. He's a phenomenal player.
Yes, he is. It's sort of like the offensive line players who, if you have in football, if you have a great offensive line player, or a couple of offensive line players, and your quarterback never gets sacked, but what are the chances of an offensive line player getting the MVP of the NFL? It's very, very, it's like a 0.5% chance.
Yeah.
That
I
you will
just want to
ever
ask
see.
you, Danny, sorry, you obviously just copied and pasted these pictures and so on, but if you look at the Sharks, Sia Colise is their captain. He's number 20. And then Kalen Doris is a captain for Ireland. He's number 20 as well.
Oh, okay. Thank
So
you
I
for
don't know
pointing
what
that
they did
out.
there. They took both captains and said, we don't know who's number 21. Let's just stick both of them there,
That may
number
have been
20.
a mistake on my part. I think Sia was 19.
Okay.
So that may have been a mistake on my part. Thank you
No, I
for
thought you
catching
just
that.
copied and pasted, and they were like, okay, we don't know which captain should go first, so we'll
No,
just
no,
give
no,
them
no,
both
no.
number 20.
Yes, Sia was 19. Was definitely 19. I wrote 20. So that may have been a mistake on my part. Well, that was a mistake on my part. But yes, I remember that CEO was actually ranked 19.
So, see, I hope you're not watching. If you are, just talk to Danny about that, my friend.
Sorry, CEO. I had you by off by one, so my apologies. Uh, the headline's gonna come out. See, loses millions of dollars in his contract because
Yeah,
of podcast
iPod
mistake.
ranking.
Thank you for catching that, my friend. So yes, I definitely remember he was 19. So that's a mistake on my part. So yeah, and then we have the two for Munster, rank 7 and 17. So Ospreys, always like I said, these are the top 20. So teams that you don't see any players probably have players that are in the top 100. So so these are the last four teams, and again the Scarlets, which is a South African team. Again, 2003. So that's interesting that you have. Uh, I'm just interested if you know, like you have the Bulls that were founded in 1938, which is a South African team. But then you have Scarlets. It's just, it's not just a team that was added to the league, and that's why there's such a big difference between
Are,
years.
are Scarlets South African?
Oh, am I mistaken?
I don't think
Okay,
they're South African.
okay. So disregard that then. Maybe they're not South African.
No, because we got the Blue Bulls, we got
Okay,
the Lions, we got the Sharks, and we got the Stormers.
okay. So sorry.
Those are
Yes.
our four. Scarlets are not South African. No.
So sorry, everyone. Disregard what I just said. For some reason I thought Scarlets uh, were a well. Let's just go back really quick. Who are the Scarlets? They're Wales. They're a Welsh team.
Welsh team, yeah.
There you go. So my apologies to the Scarlets. You're a Welsh team, not a South African team. Okay, so disregard that question right for them. So yeah, so the Scarlets have uh, Alex Craig, who's ranked number 11 currently in the league, and the Bulls have three in the top 20. And again, I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce these names.
Elrich Lou, Gerard Steenkamp, and Volko Lou.
Okay, thank you, Rifle. That's what
And
I had
all of them
Rifle here
had
for.
that Springbok. They were called up for the Springboks, and if you follow three youngsters up and coming and doing exceptionally well.
Hmm.
A lot of talk about them, and especially for 2027 and the 31 World Cup, because a lot of our players are getting a bit older. They definitely won't make all of the World Cup. So that, Russ looking for new players, and all three of them have been tapped to play in the next and definitely the World Cup after that. And they're doing so well for the Bulls.
Yeah, cool. Um, yeah, it's very interesting to to see the up and coming. I was reading an article the other day of for this specific league, the up and coming stars. These players that are like 19, 20, 21 years old. One of the players that was mentioned was Pendergast, the fly half for Leinster, who played for Ireland
Ireland, yeah.
in the Six Nations. So he's one of the upcoming stars in the game. So yeah, it's interesting to see the older players retire and then the new players come in
Yeah.
and start their careers. So and the, so the other thing I want to mention about this league is, and I I I just wanted to mention it. So once the league is, once you have the regular season, then you have the playoffs, and again the top eight teams, from the point system, the league point system, the top 8 teams make it to the playoffs. Also, those teams go into what they call the Champions Cup the following season. So those 8 teams go into the Champions Cup the following season, and I won't get too much into that. Maybe we could discuss that another day. And then the bottom 8 teams go into a league called the Challenge Cup. So you have the Champions Cup, which is pretty much the top 8 teams from all the different European leagues. And then you have the Challenge Cup, which is the rest of the teams that make the playoffs from the different European leagues. So yeah, so I found that very interesting that you have the club level, and then you have, just like in soccer, you have the countries. You have the English Premier League, you have the Spanish League, you have all the other leagues, South American leagues, and then they have the Champions Premier League. It's very similar. Some differences, but very similar. So there's rugby essentially all year, and so I'm sure you're happy about that, Rifle, where you have
Wonderful.
rugby all year. Rugby is nonstop.
That's great. Feel sorry for the players though, but I enjoy it.
Yes, yeah, it must be tough on the players,
They
but
take a beating on their bodies, yeah.
yeah, yeah, again, we've spoken about this so many times. The amount of stamina that you need in rugby is just off the charts because it's nonstop. It's nonstop. In soccer, you have players that, they're on the other side, nowhere near the ball, and they're walking around because the ball is nowhere near them. They have a few seconds, they're walking around. You know, in baseball, you know, if you're in the outfield, how much do you run? The only time you run is if the ball gets hit to you. Uh, and then in football, you have, you stop, you call the play, then you stop again, then you call the play. In rugby, it's nonstop. So yeah, it's always action. It's nonstop action. So yeah. So yeah. So everyone, that is the United uh, Rugby Championship, the league. So yeah, it was pretty cool to learn about the league and see what players do when they're not playing for their national teams, and the different players that I learned about in the Six Nations. It's cool to see them, play for the club level teams. It's pretty cool to see them and see the different teams from the different countries. And with that, everyone, before we end this episode, we just wanted again to show some love to the women's Six Nations and England again. Poor Wales. Wales can't catch a break. Whether it's on the men's side or the women's side, it's just, come on. Come on, England, France. Leave poor Wales alone. So yeah, so these are the three matches that occurred this actually not this past weekend, 2 weekends ago from the time of this recording, and it was week 2 of the Women's Six Nations, and these are the three final scores. Um, France, both men's and women's, is like in the second half they just put it into sixth gear. I guess that's the France way in rugby. Is they have a slow first half and then the second half they just destroy, demolish. And then England again, like we have spoken before, Rifle, England is favored to win the Women's World Cup this year,
Rugby World
and
Cup, yeah.
so yeah, so they're continuing the dominance. Now they're 22 wins in a row or 23. I've lost
Yeah.
count. I think it is now. So
Very,
yeah,
very good.
they'll continue
Yeah.
to dominate England in women's rugby. So the one play I wanted to highlight here uh, is Theme of Beauty. So um, this is France is currently they're gonna line out is formed. It's France doing the line out, and what one thing that you always say, rifle, is make sure your defense is there's no holes in your defense.
Yeah.
And
One
anybody
straight
that's
line.
yes, and anybody that's watched our episode um, with our friend Jason, who's a U12 coach in Richmond, Virginia. I remember him telling me that's one thing that I preach to my kids: defense, no holes, stay together. And this play plays a huge part. I'm sorry, not Jason.
Justin.
Justin. My apologies, Justin. I don't know why I said Jason. So Justin, if you see this, it's my apologies. I said Jason. I was like, wait a minute, it's not Jason. It's Justin. So in this play here, so we have the line out, and we go into a mall. So obviously we have the French dominating here in the mall. And now we play this. And we have the score. So let's run this play back again. Again, the line out, the ball. Now I'm going to stop you here. We notice the ball is right here in this player's hand, right here. Stop it here again and look at this. That huge gap in there. And you can see that this player, who actually, I think I wrote her name down. Oh, did I write her name down? No, I didn't. So one thing about this game is I believe she's the scrum half for France. She did the first drop goal in Women's Six Nations in 11 years.
Hmm.
And in one of her plays, she got the ball, she saw open field, and she did the first drop goal in 11 years in this Women's Six Nations. So so that was very interesting to find out. And I think it was the seventh or eighth in the history of the Six Nations drop goal attempted and made.
Yeah,
So
that's not the easiest thing at the best of times. So
yes, and I think it was about 35 meters away. So yeah, it was
okay.
very
Okay.
interesting play. So as you can see here, we have the hole here. The scrum half sees that, and boom, takes advantage of it, and then boom, a thing of beauty to watch.
Brilliant try. Oh, very good.
Yes. And as you saw the final score there, for the French woman, final score was 38-15. So yeah. So again, England and France continue, as in the men's side, continue to dominate. And yeah, it's going to be another. Can't wait to see, you know, England and France women on the women's side and see
Yeah,
what
that
happens
will be
there.
exciting.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So yeah, so thought I would show some love to the women's Six Nations, and yeah, So that's the episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode, everyone, learning about the United Rugby Championship League, and it's headquartered in Ireland. I forgot to mention that. So this is pretty much essentially an Irish league, even though you have different countries playing in the league. So yeah, it's pretty cool to learn and to continue to just keep track of the league and have the playoffs in a couple months here. So yes, pretty cool to learn
Yeah.
to watch and learn.
Following different players is interesting, where they play for their national team and then for clubs where they go. It's good. It's
Yep.
nice to see that.
Yes, it is. So with that, Mr. Rifle, thank you, sir, as always.
Welcome, Danny. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Yes, and continue. So the other leagues that we're going to talk about as well in future episodes, we have the Super Rugby, which is the New Zealand and
Australia,
Australia,
two biggest teams there, yeah.
and
Mana
then we have
Pacifica as well, yeah.
okay, and then we have the Gallagher Premiership, which is the English league, and then you have the Top 14, which is the French league.
France, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so those are the other three. I mean, there's others, but those are the three main leagues in at the club level in rugby. So yeah, I'm going to be very excited to learn about those leagues as well.
Mm.
So with that, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll continue the series on the different leagues around the world of rugby. So again, thank you, Rifle.
Till next time,
And
everyone.
yeah, take care, and until next time.
Thank you for watching this episode of Rugby with Rifle. Remember to press the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet to support this podcast.